part of the New Zealand Portrait Gallery. It looks like we have a very intimate group tonight, which is cosy, so thank you so much for coming out on this cold evening. We really appreciate it. My name is Melissa O'Brien. I'm the Audience Engagement Coordinator here at the New Zealand Portrait Gallery, and my job this evening is to give you the health and safety briefing for those of you who aren't aware of it. In the event of an emergency, we do have 3 exits that you can go through. There is one right behind you here, through the glass doors that you came in, and also through the back door just through there. So if the fire alarm goes off, please make your way through one of those exits, and one of the staff members will assist you if you need it. If there's an earthquake, the building has been strengthened twice, and I've been here in an earthquake, and it's scary but okay. Please just drop and cover your head and wait until shaking stops, and then again the staff will assist you outside or whatever we need to do. And last but not least, and most important, if you do need the bathroom, there are facilities just through, if you head towards the little black door and go through the door there, and we have bathrooms through there. Does anyone have any questions about any of those? No? No? Great. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce you to the Chair of the New Zealand Portrait Gallery Board of Trustees, Dr. Bollard. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, and Tänemahuta. Welcome, everybody, and it's my pleasure to be able to welcome the Chair and the panel here today. So, Hon Grant Robertson, who's Minister of Finance and Associate Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage, and also our local MP. And he's here teaching in all of those portfolios. We're very honoured to have him here to lead a panel discussion on how arts and culture are vital contributors to the health, well-being and sustainability of communities in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And the idea for this discussion came after the budget, the first Wellbeing budget in May this year. I've checked out on the Treasury website, there's a missing link between Wellbeing framework and arts and culture. And we'll be able to fill that in after this panel discussion tonight. We've also got 5 distinguished practitioners in the fields of mental health, social inclusion, ageing, and inequality to make up the panel tonight. So, can I introduce Richard Benge, Executive Director of Arts Access Aotearoa. This organisation advocates for all people to have access to participation in arts and culture in Aotearoa. Can I introduce Aroha Rangi, Senior Advisor for Maori Policy and Performance at Clare, and Dr. Sue Ward, famous novelist and teacher and trustee of the Write Where You Are Trust. This is a charitable trust that teaches creative writing programs in Rumataka and Orahata prisons and in women's refuges in the Wellington region. And Tānemahuta Gray is Kahukura, CEO of Taki Rua Productions, 25 years professional experience as event producer, theatre director and programme. And finally, Stephanie Clare, who is CEO of Concern New Zealand. Her work focuses on big issues like ageism, loneliness and falls prevention programs. The Minister's kindly agreed to chair a discussion of this panel and will take over as its Minister.
Kia ora. Nō mai haere mai ki tēnei hui, mana whenua ki tēnei hui. Whānui te upuka o whika, tēnā koutou katoa. Nō mai haere mai to all of you. Welcome along. Thank you so much for coming along this evening. I'm really looking forward to tonight. In fact, I've been looking forward to it for some time because it is a rare occasion where I get to ask questions. So if at any point in the evening I take on the persona of Mike Hosking or something like that, you'll know why I'm acting out my fantasy that I have on a daily basis of being able to ask the questions, not just answer them. And to pick up Alan's comment, from my perspective, very much tonight is a night for me to listen about the importance of arts and culture to well-being. Because Alan's not wrong. The Treasury's Living Standards Framework, which was the core of the Wellbeing budget that we put up this year, does have significant gaps in it. And one of those gaps is around the importance and connection of arts and culture to wellbeing. It's not that it isn't recognised, it is, and it's noted and mentioned in all of the work that has gone into establishing our wellbeing budget. But what we do lack is the information, the data, the indicators that will enable us to put it inside that framework. And it is that gap that I've been incredibly conscious of since I became the Minister. To wit, we did organise a very important piece of work to be done. That's when I say we, I mean the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, along with the Treasury, commissioned a piece of work that Paul Dalzell, who some of you will know of, Carolyn Saunders and Catherine Savage did around the connection between culture and the Living Standards Framework. And that piece of work is actually available on both the Treasury and Ministry of Culture and Heritage websites. It's a very interesting piece of work. It essentially makes the point that we don't have the data and the indicators that we need, but it also makes the critically important connection between culture and wellbeing. Right now, in the Living Standards Framework, there are two indicators for cultural identity. Neither of them capture anything like the richness of our culture and our wellbeing. And so, as I say, tonight is a night for us to talk about that. As we develop the wellbeing approach and the wellbeing budget further into the future, I am absolutely determined that it better reflects the place of arts and culture in our society. It doesn't mean that we stop until then, and we haven't. And so in this budget, we've got 3 or 4 significant initiatives around the arts. One of the ones I'm particularly proud of is the reintroduction of a program called Creatives in Schools. Many of you will be familiar with the old Artists in Schools program. We have, through this budget, we created that. I don't know, I might have something to say about that a little bit later on. But that's a really important step forward in returning the centrality of arts to our education system, which unfortunately over a period of time has got a bit undermined. And there are other initiatives there as well. But fundamentally, for me, personally, when I think about the contribution of arts and the broader cultural sector to wellbeing, it is about the concept of shared experience, the concept of understanding ourselves better and understanding those who we are with better. It is the creation of cohesive communities that I see the arts playing within that wellbeing framework, as well as our own personal wellbeing. And I have to say, there's an amazing effect of art and culture. When I walked in the door tonight, many of you will have the same experience. I had to stop for a second to take in Jacqueline Fahey's terrific exhibition that's around us. And I had that moment, that personal moment of having had a whole day of waffling on about finance matters. I was in Nelson today. I had that beautiful moment of being stopped by art and made to stop in my day, start again and reflect on what's around me. And so for me, at a personal level, I find the arts provide that moment for me in my busy life. And that's my wellbeing, at least I hope so. So as I said, for the most part tonight, my job is to listen. So I'm going to largely stop there. Thank you again all for coming and beginning our panel discussion. The format we're going to have is we're going to go through each of the panelists speaking to us with their perspectives on the place of arts and culture and our well-being in our communities and the sustainability of our lives. Once each of them have had a chance to do that, I'll happily throw a few questions at them, and then I hope that if any of you have questions or comments that you want to make, that you'll take the opportunity to put those as well. So please feel welcome to do that at the end. But as has been alluded, our first speaker tonight is going to be Richard Benge, the Executive Director of Access Aotearoa, a wonderful organisation who do such a good job in making sure that all members of our communities get the chance to participate in the arts, also act as advocates towards government and around those issues. Richard's had a varied career, but the one that I always think stands out for me is that Richard worked for the embassy. So I blame him for Donald Trump. That's not fair. But Richard did a great job actually with the essential embassy as a cultural specialist that was moved in with Access Aotearoa for some time. So Richard, Can we welcome Richard?
Well, you didn't lead one, and perhaps I don't either. How's that sound? Is that all right, everyone? It's such a lovely Kiwiana kind of experience here. But if you do need a microphone, you can put up any other I'll do that. So kia ora tātou, and thank you for that introduction, Grant. I know we've had some lovely connections that way, and the great thing about working for the State Department meant that I learned much more about working to find common ground between people. That was the job, just to make sure people met and understood one another better. And I think I do understand the American psyche, and that bothers me. But anyway, as you know, I'm the Executive Director of Access Aotearoa, and our thing, our mission, is that all people in New Zealand should be able to participate and have access to the arts and culture. But what does that mean? Well, for everyone on a life journey from here through to older New Zealanders, it means different things, but it all means the one thing, which is about belonging and being able to have access to being in the thing, whether it's a school experience or a dance experience as a professional, or whether it's working in a workshop in a safe environment if you have mental health issues, or whether you have a disability that would normally prohibit you from being involved. So our work is about reducing the barriers, and a great barrier for us is for people who have unseen disabilities or impairments or life circumstances. And a life circumstance which has a big barrier is people in New Zealand prisons. And if we want people to return to our communities better than when they went in, the Corrections Department do a great thing of allowing people to do all sorts of educational and rehabilitative programs. And art turns you on here and above us through the spirit of whatever life force we connect with. And through our bicultural society and our multicultural society, we in New Zealand have enormous potential to have all of these rivers coming in to support us. So I love my job and I love these opportunities to connect with colleagues, all of you, all of my colleagues here today I have connections with through the arts and our cultures, and we all support one another. It's awesome to have you. Kia ora. So my thing is that one of the things that I wanted to let you know, and Grant was alluding to, one report by government and another important one by your colleague Carmel Sepuloni has been into the value of creative spaces. What are creative spaces? They are individual organisations around the country, sometimes mom and pop type places, some much bigger, usually visual arts, but they can be dance and drama and music, where people who are without great finance or who have a disability or who have a need for an access to a creative environment are welcome. And they go and make their art there. And they're inspired and they can create exhibitions, they can sell their art, they can go on a professional journey or just do it. Those organisations are a bit of the smallest, they live on the smell of an oily rag. But thanks to the $1.9 billion that Grant and his colleagues have put into the mental health system to address our crisis, we're hoping that more and more users of people that want to turn mental health around will use creative spaces which are very low cost ways of establishing people's wellness and happiness as they do their creativity. Kia ora tātou.
Oh, thanks, Richard. Stunningly to time, Richard.
I'm glad. Otherwise the parliamentary bell.
Oh, no, not that I'm timing you, but you know. No, thank you, and thanks for articulating that. And you're right, there have actually been a couple of reports of recent times around the value of creative spaces, and particularly in terms of mental health, and we might come back and discuss those a little later. Our next speaker is Aroha Rangi, who's a Senior Advisor Māori Policy and Performance, at Creative New Zealand. Kia ora, Aroha, the floor is yours.
Rauranga tira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. Ki ngā mihi kua mihi a tēnā koutou, ki a koe minita, ki a koutou Tānemahuta, Sue, Stephanie, Richard, koutou katoa, tēnei te mihi ki a koutou.
Sure, yep. Yep. That's lovely.
He honore nui mōku, hei whakawhāri ki ake.
Aroha, just a little bit up to the... Yeah.
Like an ice cream.
Ki tēnei kaupapa whaitua. It is a great honour for me to be part of this panel and kōrero to discuss how the arts, creativity and culture are so vital for our individual and collective wellbeing. In June this year, I had the privilege of listening to Dr. Moana Jackson speak at Nui Te Kōrero, a conference organised by Creative New Zealand that this year had a particular focus on relevance of the arts and the power of partnerships. In his kōrero, Dr. Jackson raised many important taki. He spoke of the shameful statistic that although Māori are around 16.5% of our population, Māori women make up 64% of the female prison population, which makes us per capita the most imprisoned group of women in the world. He spoke of the importance of standing with, not on the land as part of our whakapapa. One taki that resonated strongly with me was Dr. Jackson's comments on Tūranga Waiwai, the place where one has the right to stand. Referencing the poetry of Alan Curnow, Dr. Jackson spoke of learning the trick of standing upright here, strong in who we are, confident in our belonging. He spoke of the great importance of te tiriti o waitangi in this pursuit, and that although the treaty has for many years been seen as a Māori thing, it is really an everything, vital as an inclusive foundation for all New Zealanders, tangata whenua and tangata tiriti, and vital to form relationships of equality, reciprocity and responsibility to each other, connected in our whakapapa, our history and the future we all want for our children and our mokopuna. I speak of these points because I think they are relevant in our conversation this evening, because a lot of New Zealanders, children, rangatahi, adults and elders, do not have places to stand strong in who they are. They are not valued by society for their knowledge, experience and expression. They are not visible and do not feel confident in their belonging. When supported, artists, the arts, creativity and culture can build the positive change that we seek. As an example, the inaugural Te Tairāwhiti Arts Festival will launch tomorrow in Gisborne. Through its program, it will create spaces for people to experience and be part of wonderful and distinctive East Coast stories, from Raukokore to Turanganuiakiwa Gisborne, inspired by the abundant artistic talent from the Rohe and across New Zealand. Some of these stories will help us navigate the difficult times when we feel depressed, isolated, or are trying to confront discrimination or racism. Some of these stories will help us learn new skills to better support the environment or each other. The majority will create moments of reflection, hope, and great joy. On Saturday, kaupapa waka leaders of the Waka Haurua Haunui Ngahiraka Mai Tāwhiti, Tairāwhiti and the Va'a Whawhaiti will sail into Gisborne, honouring the incredible mātauranga and discipline of our ancestors, both here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and across Te Moananui-a-Kiwa, the Pacific. They will make visible and celebrate historic and contemporary Māori and Pacifica cultural heroes, their deep specialist knowledge and technical skills, and the original names of local places to strengthen connection and to inspire. At Creative New Zealand, we are blessed to see the power and the magic of great artists and creativity every day. Our vision is to work to try and make sure all New Zealanders across the Motu can experience the same. We see the arts open up lives and make space for new ways of thinking and greater connection. The amazing work of organisations such as Te Rākau Hua o Te Wao Tapu, Taki Rua, barbarian productions in schools, prisons, communities, marae and youth justice residencies, using theatre as a tool to change lives. Porerua's virtuoso strings and Hawke's Bay's Project Prima Volta creating light and new pathways for young people through music. The power of collectives such as FAFSWAG celebrating LGBTQI experience and calling time on restrictive cultural narratives through Vogue dance. Creative spaces like Vincent's Arts Workshop here in Wellington and James Milkise's Eating Fried Chicken in the Shower, podcast on Radio New Zealand, helping people look at new ways to support their mental health by hearing of the experiences of others. At this point in my hopeful 5 minutes, I'd like to talk about the importance of New Zealand valuing the incredible people who create the art and creative spaces, because we cannot experience the transformative power of the arts without them. At the end of last year, Creative New Zealand collaborated with New Zealand On Air to undertake research so we could better understand career sustainability in the arts and creative industries. This research that found that over a third of New Zealanders employed in creative professions are finding it difficult or very difficult to survive. While this doesn't break their passion for creative work, it does make it very difficult to stay working in the arts and live a happy, healthy life. Creative New Zealand is currently working to change this, looking at fair rewards for artists and arts practitioners, sustainable careers for creatives, better support for emerging creative professionals. But we can't do this alone. We're inviting feedback on what actions are required to make change and who might be available and want to join us. We have a survey running at the moment and we'd love your feedback. We would also urge you to vote in the local government elections by the 12th of October, because councils make a huge impact on our daily lives and can make an incredible difference in the arts and culture created, presented and accessible in our towns and cities around the country. On our panel tonight, we are providing our individual perspectives on how the arts and creativity make a vital contribution. But it really is, as it always has been, about the whānau and how we can harness the power of the collective. Nā ku te raurau, nā u te raurau, ka ora ai te iwi. With your kete and my kete, the people will thrive. Hello,
Tēnā koe Aroha, that was great, and I think if anyone's not aware of what's happening up in Gisborne over the next few days, it's quite something in a number of ways, but the Tairāwhiti Arts Festival is going to be an amazing event, and the arrival of the Waka flotilla is going to be one of, I think, the really special occasions, so watch out for it, everybody. It's going to be exciting. Our next speaker is Sue Orr, and as has already been mentioned, Sue's the trustee of Right Where You Are, the charitable trust teaching creative writing programs in Rimutaka and Arahata prisons, and also in women's refuges in the Wellington region. Sue is an author, as has been stated, according to my notes, of 3 books of fiction, 2 short story collections and a novel, and that you are currently working on your 4th book, which sounds extremely exciting. So welcome to Sue.
Tēnā koutou, nā mihi mahana kia koutou katoa. Thank you firstly for what we've already heard from the panelists and what we're going to hear from Stephanie and Tänemahuta. And thank you, Grant, for steering us through this conversation tonight. And of course, thank you all for coming. It's cold outside, so this is a good place to be. Right Where You Are is a charitable trust that was established in 2016 out of a formal organisation, Prison Writing New Zealand. 4 Wellington writers at the time, who were also creative writing teachers, formed the trust with the aim of offering creative writing opportunities for people with limited access to this activity. The creative writing programs are now well embedded in both Rimutaka and Arahata prisons and look set in the very near future to expand into further wings in both those prisons. In 2018, with the support of the National Office of Women's Refuge, we also took the program into women's refuges in the Wellington region. We have run the program in Porirua and in Hutt Valley, and the courses are now established permanently in refuge as a 2-stage program me, I need another hand. There were some of the women who completed the initial first 6-week program in refuge asked to come back for more, and so we've recently developed a second, more advanced course for them. Last year we restructured the charitable trust operation to reflect our expanded programs. We're now a structure of 3 trustees, all published authors. Each of us has an overall responsibility for running programs in one of the 3 fiefdoms, as we like to call them, Rimataka Prison, Arahata Prison, and Women's Refuge. But we all have experience across the 3 different venues, and each of us are committed to training up other writers to teach with us so that we can ensure that our programs are sustainable. One of the first things to note about the people the writers who work with us in the programs is they all opt in to the programs. There's nothing compulsory about what we do, and the writers are free to participate in specific activities or not as they feel comfortable. And this choice, it's this self-empowerment in environments where life is otherwise restricted, seems to work for our writers. We consistently have waiting lists for our next courses. Often, regardless of the location, whether it be prison or refuge, those wanting to write have come out of an education system that hasn't worked for them. A common refrain across all of these places that we teach is that our writers walk in on that first day and don't believe they can write. Many have had a lifetime of being told that they're not capable of doing lots of things. And yet they would seem to be willing to give creative writing a go. Word of mouth plays a big part here. Writers who have already completed the courses talk about them and encourage others to sign up. Our classes explore different forms of writing. We introduce our writers to poetry and prose and encourage them to experiment with form and to find their own ways into creative writing. Making traditional forms of verse, for example, work in ways that speak to them, to their life experiences. We've seen some remarkable spoken word poetry and rap performances come out of our courses. And we've also been astonished at the writers' appetite for traditional poetry. Shakespeare is always a big hit with the men at the Rimataka Prison, and Women in Refuge have recently produced amazing work based on found poetry, pontoons, and haiku. We operate on the principle that there's no such thing as wrong or incorrect writing. Our writers also understand their writing and sharing their work in a safe space. This goes a long way towards encouraging our writers to explore and record their experiences on paper and share that work with others. The common experiences find their way onto the page and then into conversations that carry on once the day's session is over. We are not therapists, but many of our writers consider the programs as part of their therapy. A typical experience is shyness on the first day of any course, with participants reluctant to share their work, turning by about week 3 into a, shall we say, rather robust lobbying to be first to read. In my experience, the one thing that all our writers have in common, both in refuge and in prison, is that they are in a moment of pause in their lives. They find themselves, sometimes for the first time ever, in a situation where they can take stock of what's happened in the past and what their futures might look like. And my experience is that these writers seize this opportunity to reflect on their life experiences using the new tools that creative writing offers them. They talk about how the very process of writing creatively helps them to think through the past and current events in their lives, make sense of what has happened, and plan for a different kind of a future. And one of the nicest things we hear is that our writers intend to continue with the craft once they've left refuge or prison. We've had the privilege and pleasure of seeing our writers produce work after leaving our courses. I would just finish by saying that none of our work would be possible without the ongoing support from Corrections and Women's Refuge, and we're very grateful for the ways that both entities facilitate our work within these organisations. We're also hugely grateful to Wellington Community Trust for the financial support that it offers us. It's thanks to WCT that we're able to sustain and expand all of our programs. I'm just going to finish with a piece of writing that was produced in Women's Refuge this week. Just bear with me a second. So this came out of, we're halfway through this advanced course that we're doing, a second program at Women's Refuge in Hutt Valley. And these women are absolutely hungry to learn about poetry. And so I set them a task where I translated the first 2 lines of a French poem that I can still remember with a certain degree of trauma because it was my French exam, my oral French exam a long time ago when I was studying French at Waikato University. And I gave them the first 2 lines and asked them to finish it. And this is what one of the women produced. The translated title is Tomorrow at Dawn, and it's based on a poem by Victor Hugo. Tomorrow at dawn, in the moment when the light whitens the countryside, I will leave. I will follow the sunshine until the dark doesn't scare me anymore. To a happier place to see the sun come up and brighten my soul. It will awake all around me. I don't think I will take much with me. I can't carry much. Someone wrote a song about this, Glenn Campbell, I think. He wrote about the shadows on our walls. The journey brings new beginnings, hope, fulfillment, and success. At dawn, I'll breathe fresh air to clear my mind. I'll embrace the beautiful surroundings and a future ahead. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Sue, and thanks for reading that as well. It's really lovely. Our next speaker is Tānemahuta Gray, and as already has been mentioned, the Kahukura CEO of Taki Rua Productions. Tänemahuta has 25 years professional experience as an event producer, theatre director and choreographer. Down the road at WOW has been one of his homes where he's choreographed the South Pacific Aotearoa section for some time now, as well as lots of things you would have seen, Maui, One Against the Gods, and many other productions. But in the notes given to me is the piece of information I did not know, which is that you spent 5 years performing for an Argentinian aerial theatre company, De La Guarda, in your production of Villa Villa in London, Las Vegas, Buenos Aires, Amsterdam, Berlin, Seoul, and Sydney. That's kind of remarkable, actually. So please welcome Tānemahuta Gray.
Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kāka, ka tangi hoki kōau, ti hei mauri ora. Ko te mihi tuatei ki tō tātou kaihangarunga rawa, koe o mō te takore, koe o te wānanga. Te tīmatatanga me te whakamutunga me katoa kei te mihi. Kia rangi nui rawa ko papa atunu ki te ate me te whenua kei te mihi kia kōrua. Kia Tānemahuta, kia Tāngaroa, kia Tāwhiri Mātea. Ta hau I pupui ai ta hau ora ki ngā takata katoa, kei te mihi. Ko tēnei whare whakaruru hau mō mātau I tēnei wā. He whare whakaruru hau o te pūkinga whakata o nā mahi toi I rungi nā pakitara kei te mihi kia koutou me nā kaitoi he mahiana I nei mahi ātāhua. Ka mihi a koe ake hoki kia ki te mana whenua o te atiawa taraki whānui ki tū poko tika, nā te tō rangatira, nā te raukawa, me te wā I muri o tēnā nā iwi o nā te mutunga, mai tā, me nai tara. Nō reira, ki ngā mate kua we atu rā ki te pō, haere atu rā, haere atu rā, haere atu rā. Āpatoa tātai hono tō mate hoki ki ānātou. Āpatoa tātai hono tō ora, ki tō ora, nō reira, yakunui, yakurahi, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora koutou, and an honour, Grant, to again share the stage with you in these processes. We do a lot of stage challenge, gift awarding and judging over the years, so and many events around the arts. So, and your support for the arts and culture and wellbeing is just awesome. And we just so lucky Wellington have news AMP, so click on that. Got my work every time. So and also to my fellow panelists as well, just amazing quarter all, just such incredible rich work that we're all doing in our section. So just want to honour that, because it's full on, heavy, hard mahi that we do, and I think it's really important to acknowledge it. And the framework I wanted to speak about today was actually a framework of how we're building a new hauora, or health policy, in terms of how we actually hold our kaimahi, our staff, and our artists, those doing the mahi out in the communities. Because I think if we can't look after them well, then we're not going to have those troops right on the precipice dealing and offering their gifts every day to our communities. So a lot of our focus for the next 6 years, part of our policy with the changes within Taki Rua is looking at that. And I want to just give you a framework of what we've been working up, just to give you a concept of how we're trying to visualise this, and how it creates that element of what tūranga waiwai is, what Maina Jackson spoke about with the corridor, and a space of belonging, and a space of home, and a space of care for all the elements of us as humans. Now, we have 5 value systems that we work for, and if you look at the front of the wharenui, you have the amo, the 2 po at the side, the raparapa, which is the triangle po, the koruru, which is the carving right at the top of the raparapa, and the teko teko is the figure at the top. So for our amo, we have manakitanga, the ability to uplift the mana of each person that we work with and come into contact with the staff or with the community. How do we make the experience that we have each other the most uplifting experience that we can do? That's manakitanga, the art of reciprocity, care, and for each other, and uplift of each other to be the best we can do and be. On the other amo, holding the other side, is whanaungatanga. Whanaungatanga is the interweaving streams of extended family coming together. So we have the community, through kaimahi, working together to be able to create a strong whāriki, strong support, or whāriki known as also the eating mat or sleeping mat, so that we are held in a space to be able to make our work stand strong. From that base, pukingatanga, the raparapa. Pukinga are the qualities, the tools, the talents, the skills, the abilities that our artists have, our community has, in engaging with each other and growing our understanding and respect of the arts. How do we hold our artists to aspire to the best of their work and then deliver it to the communities in the best way? With the koruru, we have the kaupapa of kōtahitanga. In our process at work, we wānanga. We really talk together about what processes we want to do, we debate it, we talk it through, we do that inside our house. We make sure we really are robust on our conversations, and then when we've agreed on a point of view, then with kōtahitanga, we align that information with a unified voice out to our community. I think it's only with that strength of a unified voice can we actually be a beacon for people to feel we can stand alongside and be a part of belonging to that space. And so the koruru is key in that vein with kōtahitanga, a oneness, unified voice. And then in terms of Taki Rua, because it's a legacy company, it's been running for into its 37th year now, and many people have held the mana of this company as it's shared Te Reo Māori productions the last 25 years all around schools. We just reached our record this year. 19,500 tamariki got a chance to experience a show fully in Te Reo Māori, based off Patricia Grace's beautiful children's story, The Kuia, the Old Lady Spider, The Kuia me te punga were were, and taking that story around to Kura Kaupapa, who actually for them it's the only show they get in Te Reo Māori in the year. So we want to make sure that all our communities are included and inclusive in an experience of how they see the world and can experience it through the arts as well. And so the teko figure for us is kaitiakitanga, this element of legacy and holding on to those who've made the steps in the past and setting up the best platform for those who then will then take on the mantle and move into the future. Ka pu te ruha me hao te rangatahi. From that front, we go inside the whare, into our whare hauora. So this is a space where, if you look at the 4 walls of the whare, the first wall we come through into, from the mahu, the porch, through the whare, is the tinana, the body. How do we look after the well-being of the body? From nutrition, from how to feed yourself when on the road, doing 10 shows a week, every week in schools. How do you look after yourself so you can keep up that performance? What are the elements to make sure that the physical body is doing what's required to do in the performances that you've got? On the left side of the wall is the hinengaro, which is the hinengaro is the psychological and mental well-being space of who we are as humans. How do we hold that space so that we can deliver every day a strong performance to our community and be that po for them to be able to come into our world, experience arts and be transformed for life, as we know arts experiences can do for people. How do we make sure we make that impact every day and look after our mental well-being in that process? The other wall is the nāko, the emotional heart. So not the mana was the beating heart, but nāko is the emotional heart. It's the element of how we hold ourselves emotionally together, strong, supportive, to be able to do the mahi we do. The arts is very emotional mahi. You have to dig deep to come up with it. I just saw Dark Knight again, sort of introduced to my children the other night. Heath Ledger, for me, one of the greatest performances ever of a villain when he played the Joker, went so deep into that place, it probably took his life. But the element of how was he held when he went so deep into that? Those are the questions that those bosses of artists like that tell us, what we need to be asking ourselves. And closer to home, Paul Makasiva, who also passed away earlier this year. The element for us is from the nāko, if we can hold that emotional heart and well-being of our 3 of our 4 walls strong, we're going to just be more solid in our journey through. And the final one is the wairua, how we look at the spiritual context within which we stand, the connection to our ancestors and tupuna and the strength we can get from that, as you see the photos in the back wall of the wharenui, and how we can hold that space for us to grow. This is well inspired by Dr. Mason Jury's Whare Tapa Whā for Whole and Health, and we've adapted it to sit within our setting. The other element that looks at it as well is, if you look at a wharenui, the floor is Papatuanuku, Earth Mother. For us, that's our membership, that's our people. From there, our board comes up, and the Potoko Manawa is the heart post, or the heart beating post, the central post of the wharenui. So we've got a down-upward structure within our thinking, our lens, not top-down. So our board comes out from the ground, from Papatuanuku, from the membership, our executive up from there into our leadership team who honour the mahi we're doing. The rest of our kaimahi who do the work and serve the artists who then come on as contractors, the crew, all the different people we engage with, to then share their beautiful talents, their pukungatanga, and adorn the tuanui, the tuapapa, the roof of our wharenui. With this beautiful creation that we do when we create a work in-house, we build this work, and with Taki Rua's kaupapa, we then also tour this work to communities, which is a whole other level of preparation and care of our people. So then we take that, each of those roofs out into the Headinga Waka, the Pou Headinga Waka, which is a post where our waka, our productions, launch off from, go around the communities, all around nationally, locally, and also likely for us soon to be internationally, and then come back to our home base, the Hokainga. We have a new home with Taki Rua, which is now a home for all artists. We've got 7 Māori theatre companies sharing that space, but it's also a space that all Wellington artists can hire and utilise that space as a home. And we need more homes. Taki Rua had been homeless since 1998, and for 17 years being manuhiri or visitors in other people's homes means you can't kind of call the rules yourself. You have to abide by the rules of that person's whare. It's exactly how it should be. So for us, getting our own whare, it means that we can host the way we wish to host, look after the way we wish to look after our people, and the empowerment that when you have got a place, and apart from the leasing agreement, can't be kicked out of, is a real strength, because we've been siloed off for 17 years, and really you can see the difference. And within 3 years, the amount of work's coming through, the amount of artists working, contractors, it's incredible. It's about 700-800% higher than what it's been. So it's amazing what a house will do. So in order to kia kousa katoa, thank you for letting me share that framework, something that we're building and trying to now realise and enhance the tukutuku panels in the po on each of those walls, so that it's a structure that then we can share with other organisations and see if we can hold our people together. Ora kia kousa katoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Tāne. I mean, that is an incredible framework, and of course you talk about that sense of belonging and that sense of place. That to have that anchor you is just must be tremendous. I remember going to a very rattly building for Taki Rua in the 90s, which was. I hope your home now is more windproof than that was. The final member of our panel to speak tonight is Stephanie Clare, the Chief Executive of Age Concern, which is a role she's had since April 2016. Before that, 30 years of nursing experience, which is a phenomenal career and contribution. And Age Concern has a huge range of issues that it focuses on, including ageism, loneliness, and fall prevention programs. Please welcome Stephanie.
Kia ora katoa. I'm really happy to be here. A little nervous because I'm amongst such expert knowledge and people in the room. So I want to acknowledge the panel, Grant, and I actually want to acknowledge the most important people to me here, apart from the older people who are in the room, as my colleagues from the office, because they support me wherever I go. No, we're not allowed to enter the dance yet. I want to talk about our organisation, and I think the only one that has been talked about today, apart from loneliness and social inclusion, is older people, the invisible community. We talk about whānau all the time, but when we talk about whānau, most of the time we talk about our children, our mokopuna, our young people, and we forget that in every family there is an older person who has set the scene, who has gone forth first. So I just want to remind everybody that actually older people count, and certainly in my world, older people are my focus. So we are an organisation dedicated to older people. Yes, we do many things. We do visiting service, we do elder abuse protection, prevention, we do social activities. We are a place that you come to gather, to connect, to share, to learn, and to be, and to have purpose, to volunteer. The reciprocity has been spoken of a lot today, and that's what happens a lot. People give their time, they give their care, and they give themselves. So our organisation is 70 years old. It's an ageing population with an ageing organisation dedicated to older people. Doesn't get much better than that. So in our organisation, we are a national organisation. So we go from the top of the North Island to the bottom of the South Island. We've got front doors in most communities that people come into and ask for help. We are there to answer questions. We are there to help navigate health services. We are there to connect people. Our biggest condition facing our older people is social isolation and loneliness. And loneliness is a health hazard. That's why you have a nurse in this role, because actually as a health hazard, Ministry of Health are the only people investing in the community connection of our world. I don't have any arts money to connect our people together. Ministry of Health money is helping me connect my communities and make a difference. And in our offices, we have areas that people connect and do art together and come and talk about their history. They talk about what they've done in their past. It is a place that we can connect and need to connect between the arts and our ageing population. And that's why I think it's pretty amazing to be here, because I've never been here before, I've never been invited, and yet actually our people have been here for a long, long, long time. We are ageing in place and we are here and not going away. So how can the arts contribute, reinforce and re-establish a place in older community, particularly as you head into those senior years and maybe residential care? We haven't spoken of how we care for people in their communities and in their later years of life, in a place that they can't be who they want to be, they can't get and do what they need to do, in a place that it's a structure that you might be doing and being set upon within your day's program, that you haven't got the chance to do your art to connect with the people that you've grown up with. Where are we putting place and time to this community that are ageing and hitting our residential care facilities? I think that we need to be thinking about our older community from the time we start growing, and we need to be including them in the programming as we get older. We know we can do it much better, and we know how we can do it with the leads of other organisations. We are only one organisation and we are forgotten. We are invisible. I mean, if I wasn't standing here today, would you know about Age Concern? Some of you fantastic, but many people don't know about it. They think it's an organisation that is dedicated to when you get old. But actually, it could be a place that you come to help out way before you're older. It's a place that you can come to help and contribute and learn new things and mix with people and stay socially connected. We have a number of social connection activities out there, and people come together and they spend time learning stuff. How could we do this better? I was recently over in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands they're innovative in their care of the older person. So I went to a daycare centre that was for older people with severe dementia. And in that room, they're all creating something. They're all spending time creating something so they can put on show the following week for the community. The community comes through. The community cares for that community of people with dementia. And in that place, they connect families, they connect businesses. We're not doing this by ourselves, we need to do it together. And in a strong family, a strong mall, a strong community needs all of us to approach that. So as I say, I'm a novice in this space. Wellbeing and in my health nursing space would be something around a vaccination or some sort of preventative medication. But social connection here is the preventative medication we need to give to people. We need to give them the opportunity to connect and be included in that conversation. I'm always reminded that you don't talk at people, you share with people. And in doing that, you have a rich opportunity to do something different. So thank you so much for the opportunity to stand here with you tonight and share that actually social isolation is the biggest issue facing our older people. How can we fix this in the arts environment? And how can we be included in all the work that you are doing? So thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I would say that one of the areas in the Living Standards framework where we do keep some research and statistics is around social isolation and loneliness, and it is one of the indicators within the framework. And what it tells us is very much what you're saying, that it is the major issue affecting older population in New Zealand, and indeed I'd argue some other populations as well. What I thought, in the interest of time, is I think there are three areas that have really stood out to me from what everybody has said, and I'm just going to invite a bit of comment on each of them from the panel, and then have time perhaps for one or two questions after that. I'm conscious if anyone has to go with the end time, they should do that. The first of those is around the concept of belonging, the concept of tūranga waiwai, a place to stand, a place to be. That was mentioned by actually all of you as you spoke, as being obviously a critical element of what's important from the arts sector to well-being. I wonder if each of you could reflect on one element of the arts that you believe is central to that sense of belonging that we need to be enhancing, that we need to be supporting. So if each of you could think of one aspect of the arts that contributes significantly to belonging, and I'll start, and we'll go along.
Oh, yep. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
For me, I'll talk from a personal experience, but I was very privileged through my growth and journey through Te Ao Māori, learning Māori language and tikanga and customs, that the thing that really brought me into it was doing maurako, which is taiaha, or Māori martial art, fighting form. And Koromita Mohi's one of two exponents, him and Peter Sharples, who was chair of the Māori Party, head of the Māori Party, was those two were very key and instrumental in reviving modern Māori martial arts and the art of taiaha. And 20,000 boys have been to Makoia Island under Koromita by the time I started going to do courses there when I was a 21-year-old. And the impacts that you see on these young men who are right on that divide, whether they're 12, 14, starting car conversions and issues with their lives, totally ready to go out of our community and our whānau connections and into a life of crime. And then we've got them at a really, really pivotal time, and we bring in, we have attendees from Rumataka Prison who come through, who can talk to their time on the inside and what it's like. We have people who are police cops, lawyers. Cliff Curtis comes every single year, comes back. It's what built him as a young man, because you see through the week of training people claiming in front of your eyes their identity, who they are. They have so many come through with no awareness of who they are as people, and within a week it gets framed for them and they've got something to hold on to. When you've got something to hold on to, you've got reasons more than just yourself to hold on to it. And sometimes just ourselves isn't enough for people. So, and the other element I think which is really powerful from a Māori worldview lens is you've got an ancestral connection as well. So once you realise that you're part of a whakapapa, an ancestral connection of multiple father, mother, grandparents, great-grandparents, so-and-so, which all of us have that in us, you've got more of a reason to stand strong because you know they're there holding you up as well. So within a Māori framework, that strong ancestral tūpuna connection allows us to do and be even stronger in who we are. So sometimes when we're not enough, they can be that reason for being enough. And I've seen that, and it's very powerful. So that element of tūranga waiwai, connectivity and understanding identity is the big transformative game changer for me, and it's a cultural game changer that we're bringing to our communities.
Aroha?
I think it's the arts help you find your own value in being seen for what you bring, and the arts can help you find that. It can be difficult. I think connection is another very big important part, but if you don't have your immediate whānau, you can sometimes find your whānau through the arts.
One of the things that we do on all our courses is produce a booklet of work at the end, and it turns out to be on average kind of maybe 30 pages of work. And I was reading off my phone before that poem that was actually in a booklet that's being produced at the moment. Now, because of the environments that we're working, confidentiality and safety are the two main concerns. These booklets, we produce one for each of the writers that we work with. We produced a few precious copies for either corrections or women's refuge to have as a record of what has been achieved by the women and the men during the courses. Sadly, the booklets do not have a life outside that safe parameter, and that's part of the contract that we have with those institutions, that confidentiality must be kept. But no matter what, at the end of each course, the writers want the booklet, and it's a physical, concrete evidence of their journey over the 6 weeks or 8 weeks or however long the course was of becoming a writer. And one of the women who I've been working with in the last few weeks walked in the other day and she said, "I'm a creative writer." And she owned that as her new profession, and she went on to tell the other woman that she no longer buys greeting cards with cheesy messages inside them. She writes her own poems in her greeting cards now. And we're talking about people who are not on their tūranga waiwai. When they're in prison, they're not, and women have come to a place of safety from a place that they might call home but has become an unsafe place for them. And so it's not a physical sense of ownership, it's a spiritual and personal tūranga waiwai that they're operating within at that point.
So around belonging, what's the core?
I think for the community that we represent, belonging would be having the purpose and having the legacy left behind, leaving something of yourself that you have created by yourself or with others. I think that's really, really important. That connects us with the future. You know, it's something that you can create. And whilst you're creating it, you do have the purpose of creating it. You have sense of being. You know what you're there for. But when you've finished with it, it's left behind. So you leave part of yourself, you leave your legacy. It's a really, really strong emotion that you create with that space, that sense of belonging.
So belonging touches me a lot. Over the last 18 months, I've been the mentor of a man who has left prison, who went into prison at 19 and came out in his 30s. And when you do that, your whole maturity is arrested. So basically, we're dealing with 19-year-old, 33-year-old, who is a brilliant, almost savant-like artist. Brilliant. And fortunately, because of the creative space, because he doesn't belong anywhere else. He's left his family doesn't want to know him anymore. Arts Access believes in his journey, and so does the Pablo's creative space that's holding him at the moment. I interviewed him recently for a publicity purpose. I was doing a presentation to the Ministry of Health, Disability and Mental Health and Addiction team about how to better use creative spaces. And one of the slides I showed was this young man's work, and his comment was, if I couldn't come here every day, I would be lost. And I guess without a sense of belonging.
Nice, thanks, Richard. We'll do the second concept, I think, that was really clear. I might just get each of you to do 1 minute as we go back this way, was around access, around the opportunity to actually be able, and it's in the name of your organisation, Richard, and we'll go from the positive of the last question to what is the greatest barrier to access that you see. And remember, you know, I know the Minister of Finance, so, you know. But yeah, what is the greatest barrier to access that you see in terms of all of your endeavours?
When the Minister of Arts, not the Associate Minister of Arts, spoke at Ngāti 2 years ago, and she said the most important thing for me in the arts at the moment is access to it. So when Jacinda Ardern says things like that, I think I've died and become what? The dairy lobby? Anyway, I'm glad we're still together on this. So for access is as much to do with attitude and what pathway can be provided. A lot of access comes from the privilege of who you are and where you were born at what time, into what family, and that provides a whole lot of access just because of where you landed on the planet. So it behoves people who have greater access to provide that access, which is actually should be a human right. It is a human right. And I believe what Grant used to talk about long before he became the Minister of Finance, long before, which is a kinder society. And your words have influenced my career since then. And how we apply kindness and accessibility is a similar pathway.
Barriers here would be ageism. That you're too old to do it. You're too old to start it, and you're too old to contribute. I see it in the health sector. You're too old to get that new hip. You'll never get good use out of it. You're too old to participate because you're not. What purpose is it? You're almost finished. The ageist attitudes are rife, and actually that's the biggest barrier that we see. We know there's money issues. We know that there's places to go, but if you're not allowed to, you're not welcomed, and you're not given the opportunity because of your colour of your hair, colour of the age that you are, that you can't go anywhere.
Access. I think that for us it possibly is a question of money. We want to pay our people that come into prisons and into refuge with us. We feel it's a good thing that we're doing there, and we have people on every front waiting to get onto one of our courses, and probably one of the things that stops them being able to start immediately is just our ability to kick off another program, and that comes down to people. So, yeah, I guess it is another thing. Yep. Yeah, thank you.
You're allowed to say that.
I would totally everything that all of the other speakers have said. I think it's a mixture of, is it for me? Am I welcome? Is the program relevant? Am I interested in what's being presented? And definitely the per
Yeah, total on all three fronts there. I do think also something in the experience that I see is and it's changed in the last 18 months quite dramatically in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which has been really exciting, is the value of a Māori worldview within how we can see and navigate our world. And in this country, especially in Aotearoa, it's the only place in the world where a Māori worldview that comes from this heart, this place. It's ours to own, it's our identity, it's our uniqueness, but also it's a huge community builder. So there's so much value in a Māori worldview that allows massive accessibility, but if you shut that door off, you're making yourself very exclusive and disconnected to opening yourself up to and the answer to so many problems. It really is. It's quite fascinating while I've been working within it. It's quite amazing. So Māori worldviews. For me, I've been dreaming of Aotearoa that if we've got within our youngsters and our whole community, all age, if we've got our Māori worldview and a Pākehā worldview in our pockets, we can navigate the world more effectively than just the one worldview.
Awesome. I'm conscious that we're over our time, and so I'm sure people are very happy to answer any questions from you as we finish. I just wanted to focus on those two concepts because I think, to me, they are a huge part of both the opportunity here, the belonging, and the access, which is the challenge. The third bit that I heard a lot, and I just think it's worthy of noting in closing, is the concept of the well-being of our artists. So there's what we all get from it and what we all do, but it was raised by at least 2 or 3 of the panelists that the well-being of our artists themselves is a critical element, and I think that's something, again, we haven't valued sufficiently in our history, and the place of the arts in our society means that we need to do that. And then the fourth element is place, and making sure that there are spaces and places available for all of us. So those 4 are the things I've taken away from tonight as being really significant: belonging, access, order, and place or space. Speaking of places or spaces, this one, the Portrait Gallery, is a fantastic place and space, and I want to thank the Portrait Gallery for hosting us this evening. It is wonderful to be able to use this facility for a discussion such as the one we've had, so I want to thank you for that. And in closing, I think I hand over to Ellen to farewell us. So thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you, Grant. Yes, Richard, this is our creative special space here that you're in here, and access is free. And we hope that you'll all keep coming back in. And Tänemahuta, we listened while you were talking about your space and your structures, and thinking exactly the same thing about the space and the structure here in Shed 11 and what we can do with it, and I think you can feel some of that here. And we've all been listening to you all, but we've also been looking at the portraits on the wall behind you. And so Stephanie, the artist, is now 91.
Yes.
And she was here a month ago, and she talked about what she's done and is still painting. Sue, she read a poem that she set up, just like you're the second one to read in the last month. So we're really pleased that you've done that. And Grant, I should say, there's not many ministers of finance around the world who could handle all this the way you do. So thank you all very much for coming, and please join me.